Welcome to the second video in this 7-part video series on Welcome to Your Mac. This video is going to focus on the system preferences. This is kind of that control center, heartbeat area of your laptop. You can go in here and you can customize the look. You can work on your wireless settings. You can set up printers. It's kind of your overall configuration for your entire laptop. If you want to make any adjustments to it, this is the area to go. So let's jump in and start looking at all those settings in your system preferences. Alrighty, in order to access your system preferences, you want to go to the top left-hand corner of your screen and click on the Apple logo icon. Then you want to click on System Preferences. This will open the window that's kind of the one-stop shop for adjusting any settings, features, looks, pretty much anything to do with your macOS device. You can adjust it in here. Now, a couple things you'll see across the top here. You're first going to see the search bar. This allows you to, if you have a specific setting and you're maybe not sure where to go to find it, you can start typing it in and it will highlight some areas. So let's say, for example, I wanted to add a printer, but I didn't know how to do that. I could just start typing print in and it will give you a couple of different features. So setting up printers, it'll tell me it was in printers and it took me right to it. So that's a great way to move around quickly, especially if you don't know where the feature is that you're looking for, because it's kind of easy to get lost in here a little bit, unless you've used it a bunch of times. The next thing you'll see is kind of like a big version of what we call the waffle iron icon. If you click on that, that will take you back to this main screen. So let me click on printers again, and let's say I want to get back to that main system preferences screen. All I need to do is click on that, and you'll notice when I hover over it, it says show all, and it'll take me right back to the beginning. The next thing you'll see are the two navigation arrows. Those are kind of like a back and forth to where you've gone through your settings. So for example, I just went into my sound settings, and when I hit forward, it takes me back to them. If I keep hitting the back button, it'll keep taking me backwards of where I went. So it'll move you back one step or forward. If you think of your web browser when you have the back and forward button, that's the same idea with here. It'll move you back through your history or forward through your history within your system preferences. Kind of a nice feature if you can't remember, or if you just need to quickly get back to a section you were in. So depending what version of macOS you're running, I'm currently running macOS Big Sur, which is their latest greatest that came out a few months ago. If you can't get up to that or you haven't upgraded to it yet, your system preferences may look just a little bit different. It also depends on what type of device you're using. If you're using a Mac Mini, for example, you don't have Touch ID, so there's a good chance you're not going to see the Touch ID option. Or if you do, it might be grayed out. If you're running a new MacBook, you will see the Touch ID, but you may not see some other features. So depending on what version you're using, you might see some things that look a little different. But the overall of the system preferences area is pretty much the same, and they've kept it very, very consistent through the years. So no matter what version you're running, you're going to see it looks pretty much the same. They may have some different looks for the icons, and they might be in some different areas, but overall, it's the same. And if you're not on macOS Big Sur and you can update to it, I would do that. Being nice and secure with your device, you always want to stay on the latest greatest. I definitely understand giving it some time before you upgrade, but make sure you get up to the latest greatest. So the first option you're going to see is your Apple ID. This area kind of shows you everything to do with your Apple ID, your iCloud storage, what information you have syncing to the iCloud, which sits up in the network. So if your device crashes, for example, you get it fixed, or you get a new hard drive or even a new device, you log in with your Apple ID again, and boom, everything is right back in there. So I would definitely suggest turning iCloud on and logging in with your Apple ID. They do give you 5 gigabytes of storage for free. That's pretty pathetic in my opinion, and they should do a lot more than that. We do the Apple One subscription for the family, so we get 2 terabytes included with it. That might be a little overkill for most people, but I would definitely suggest stepping up to one of their paid plans. It's not very expensive, and it gives you a little bit of coverage just in case. But in here, you can choose what will sync to iCloud and what doesn't. You can change your name, phone number, email. If I hover over my photo, you can edit that. You can control what cards are attached to your Apple ID and where's your default shipping address. You can change your password and security, and you can even see all the devices that are logged in with your Apple ID. So kind of the one-stop shop for doing everything to do with your Apple ID. So we're going to back up. The next icon you're going to see is family sharing. It's more of an iOS feature, but it does extend to the Mac. Some really cool things is if you have a bunch of family members, especially like if you have kids or anything, and you have a bunch of iOS devices like iPhones or iPads, you can set yourself up as the parent and then add your other family as kids, or even add your spouse or parents or anything like that. And if you buy an app underneath your account, all the other people in your family have access to that app that you purchased, which is really cool. The only caveat with it is you can only assign your one payment method to it. So for example, I'm the parent in my family and I have my wife added and my mother on it and one of my sisters. If any of them purchase an app, it comes out of my card. Now we have it set up where when they do that, they just let me know and send the money, and it works out great. But that's just something to be aware of. If you add somebody as a child, the really nice thing with it is it will send you a notification saying your child, little Johnny, is trying to purchase an app. Do you want to approve this or not? And then you actually have to approve it before they get it. So it's a really handy feature, and it can save you quite a bit of money. And with Apple, there's a lot of apps, even subscriptions that will share. So you just subscribe once and it allows everybody access to it. Really nice feature. Not as much on the Mac side of things as it is on the iOS side. The next setting is your general. In here, you really adjust the colors and how different things behave and act. On the latest, I can't remember, I think it's the last couple versions of macOS, they've started having a light and dark mode, or you can also do an auto mode, where as the day goes, as it becomes evening, it will start to slowly shift over to night. If you use one of the built-in Apple wallpapers, it actually starts to get dark as the night goes. You can kind of see the sun setting and sun rising. It's kind of cool. Up to you if you want to use it. Me being a media person, and a lot of media people tend to use dark mode because it is a lot easier when you're editing photos and things like that, but completely personal preference. You can adjust accent color, highlight color. You can really customize how the different things work, how the tinting work, how the scroll bars work. So I would definitely look down through here and just check things out. The one kind of weird piece that I find in here is your default web browser. I use Safari. I'm an all Apple guy. So for me, Safari is just easiest. But if you're a Chrome browser user or Firefox or Microsoft Edge, you can set your default web browser in here. The last little option I want to mention down here is a little tick box at the very bottom called Allow Handoff between this Mac and your iCloud devices. Handoff is a really neat feature, and if you have more than one Apple device in your house, like an iPad and a Mac or an iPhone and a Mac, Handoff is really cool where you can quickly switch between the two. So for example, I can be on my iPhone and I can copy a link. So I actually select the link and hit copy. I can come on my MacBook and hit paste, and it will paste that link in. Or I can copy something on my Mac and go to my iPhone and hit paste, and it will paste it in. So it's a really cool feature. I don't use it a ton, but when I want to use it, it's so nice. And that's one of the things I do really like about Apple, is just how seamless all the different devices work together. So that is kind of the general settings. It's a main area that you can kind of go in and just play around with how everything looks. Desktop and screensaver. So the first screen that'll pop up is your desktop. So you can set your desktop background. So I have my logo for Adam on Tech displaying. You can select wallpapers. You can add photo albums. You can add your Apple photo albums and have it change the picture every X amount of time, display in random order. You can create a folder that just has specific pictures in it that you want displayed, and you can click the little plus button. You can find that folder, add it, and it will just show those photos or just that photo. You can choose how it fills the screen. So I have set to fill screen. You can do it to fit or stretch to fill or center. The tab across the top, you can click and edit your screensaver. I prefer not to have my screensaver showing. With all the streaming and some other things I do, it's just easier not to have it show. So I've actually down here in the bottom left-hand corner set it to never, but you can tell it to start after a minute, 2 minutes, 5, 10, and so on. You can have it show with a clock. You can have it use a random screensaver. Or you can choose one of the basic ones that they have, and they got a lot of different ones. You can do like a photo wall where it pulls multiple photos from your Apple Photos collection. You can really do a lot of neat things with it. So it just depends on what you want to use it for. The next piece is hot corners. I'm going to explain that in another part of this video, so I will come back to that feature. I don't really know why they put it there. Well, I kind of do, but it's a little better explained in another part. So we're going to go back to the main spot. Dock and menu bar, I covered that in the very first video in this series called the desktop. Mission control. This is where I was going to mention the hot corners. I am going to do another video, part of this series, on mission control because it's a very expansive feature. There's a lot to it, and it's a really cool feature and really helps you in your productivity. What mission control does is when I swipe, you're going to see across the top here, I've got all these different desktops. So I can customize and have one program or multiple programs open in different windows. And with a trackpad, I can actually use 3 fingers on my trackpad and I can quickly jump between those screens. So it almost acts like I have 5 monitors or 3 monitors. You could even set up 10 if you want, and you can jump between those. It's called mission control. You can also do keyboard shortcuts to get to that mission control. I always have a trackpad available, so I just use it that way. It is a feature I use all the time. I would strongly suggest playing around with it. But what the hot corners is, I'm going to tap on hot corners. You can tell it when you drive your mouse into one of the 4 corners of your screen that it does something specific. So for example, let's say we want our top left to show the Launchpad, which just shows all the applications that are installed on your computer. Now, when I drive my mouse to that top left corner, you're going to see the Launchpad appear. And now it shows all the apps that I have installed on my computer. You can use it to quickly start your screensaver. You can use it to put your display to sleep. Really handy feature is you could use it to lock your screen. So if you're getting ready to walk away, you could just drive your mouse up to one of the corners and it will instantly do that. Really neat feature if you want certain things that you can just quickly get to. Siri, it'll just let you customize your Siri. Any of the modern MacBooks have Siri built in. Works about as good as it does on your phone. You can use it to launch applications and things like that. Works pretty well. In the very first video, I talked about Spotlight. Spotlight is your search. In the Spotlight area, you can actually choose what areas of your device it will search. So if you don't want it to search any of your images, you can disable that. You can restrict certain categories and where it's going to look. If you want to further restrict things, you can click on this Privacy tab and you can prevent it from searching specific areas on your device. So kind of a handy feature. I like it to search everywhere, so I just kind of leave that as default. Most people probably will, but if there is certain areas you do not want to show up in a search, you can hide them in here. Language and region, that just sets where you're located and the language you want to use on your computer. Notifications. A lot of times on the top right, you'll get your little notifications that pop out. So any programs that have notifications, whether you get it's a new email that comes through, or if you're processing a video and the video's finished, or just any type of notification to do with your device, it will swipe out from the top right corner. In here, you can choose all the controls for those notifications, just like you do on your iOS device. You can choose how they show, when they show, if there's any sounds associated with them, and you can disable it completely. There is also another piece here for turn on Do Not Disturb. So you can have Do Not Disturb from certain times. You can have it on when the display is sleeping, when the screen is locked, meaning you won't see any notifications on your screen. The one thing, especially for teachers, I would strongly suggest, and I believe it's on by default, is when mirroring to TVs and projectors, have Do Not Disturb on. The last thing you want is to have your screen being shared and then you get a text message from a family member or a sibling or somebody, a friend of yours that likes to have a little bit of fun and maybe it's a little inappropriate. So being able to disable that when you're mirroring to a TV and projector is really, really handy. If you've set up your laptop to be able to receive phone calls from your iPhone, which is a feature you can use, I always disable it because I find it annoying. But if it's a feature you do want, you can choose how you want those phone calls to come through when it is in Do Not Disturb mode. But you can scroll through the list here and you can adjust all the different settings. Internet accounts. In here, if you use the built-in Mac Mail, the built-in calendar, any of the built-in features, this is where you can tie your Google account. If you have a Microsoft Exchange account, your iCloud, your Yahoo, AOL, I'm surprising that's still around, or you can add in a standard type of account that you want to use Apple Calendar with, or if you want to use Mac Mail with. I use another app called Fantastical, and then I use Spark Email as my client, so I don't need to actually control those things through here. But if I did use those programs, you would come in here, You actually click on one of these to add the account that you're trying to add, and you add the account. And then over here, let's say you want to remove it, for example, you click on the account and you can hit the minus button, or you can control what specifically syncs. So let's say you're using a Gmail account and you just want the calendars to sync. You can select just the calendar or the notes, the contacts. So you can specify what within that account is going to sync. Wallet and Pay, that's where you can set up your Apple Pay, which is a really handy feature. It's not used much on your MacBook. It's mainly for if you're purchasing something online, you can actually set it up to pay real quickly. It'll kind of autofill in your payment information. Or if you want to manage your Apple Wallet, you can do it in there. Touch ID. I think for the past 3 or 4 years, all the Macs coming out have started offering Touch ID. It works just like it did on your phone. You can add multiple fingerprints or just add one fingerprint. You can use it for unlocking your Mac, which is such a nice feature. You can use it for Apple Pay or making purchases in iTunes, App Store, and Apple Books. And then you can use it for password autofill. Strongly suggest. It's so nice to be able to open up your laptop, pop your finger on it, and off you go. Users and groups. In here, you can add multiple users to your laptop. So if you have a bunch of kids in your family or your spouse, you can actually add specific accounts for them so that they can go through and kind of customize their own area. They can have their own wallpaper. So it's not tied to your same account. And also, if you're doing anything with payment information, they won't be able to get to that. Here is where you can also change your password. Just click on the account name and hit change password, and you can change it to whatever you want. If you click on login items, you can choose what applications open from the start. You come over here to the bottom left, you can do login options. Now you're going to notice right now everything's grayed out. There are some areas in your system preferences that are grayed out, and when you see that, you're going to see this little lock button down in the bottom left-hand corner, and right now it's locked. If I tap on it, it will unlock it, and I have to put in my password in order to unlock it. But as soon as I do that, everything will allow it so I can actually choose it. So you can do a couple things. You can have your laptop auto log in, and you can select the user. You can display the login window as a list of users. So every user you've created on your laptop, you'll see a little icon. You just tap on it, and then you can put in the password. Or you can have it where it's just a username and password box, and each person has to put in their username and the password in order to log in. You can have it show the sleep, restart, and shutdown buttons, show the input menu, the password hints, because you can set hints for your password, and you can allow fast user switching. Fast user switching means if you just want to be able to jump back and forth from accounts, you can quickly do that. If you have a network server, you can join that, and you can also customize accessibility options. You can also enable a guest user mode. What that does is when somebody just goes in on the computer, if they open up the browser, download any files, when they log out, all of that's deleted. All the files they downloaded is deleted. They can't install any programs. So it is a great feature if you do have a lot of guests over that for some reason want to use your computer. When you create a child account, in here you can also set the screen time settings and link it to that account. So if you want to limit amount of time spent in certain applications or how long they're using their account for, that's where you can attach those things in here. Accessibility gives you just a lot of different features, especially if you have any audio-visual issues. For me, for example, I've got some hearing issues. So sometimes I've gone in there to adjust some settings to help for the issues I have in being able to hear things better. There are some kind of neat settings in there. There's a ton of them, and I'm not even going to try to do it justice. I would strongly suggest searching around for some videos on macOS accessibility. There's a lot of wonderful people out there that actually have these issues, and I think what better person to learn them from than people that have to live with these features. They can really show you more in depth how they work. Screen time, again, I mentioned that under users and groups. You can adjust so many features if you have your kids. You can limit amount of time in a program or an app, things like that. If you have an iOS device and already use it, it works pretty much the same. Extensions, you can download certain programs and apps that will further extend how the device works. So if you have a photo editor, for example, and you want to go share a photo with something, in the share settings, the program will show up or the feature will show up. It's not an area you're probably going to go in very often, but it can just help extend the usage of your device. Security and privacy. Security and privacy, this is a great area just to look around. You can change your password from here also. This is where you can set how long it requires a password after it's gone to sleep. You can have it show a message when the screen's locked. A really neat feature is if you have an Apple Watch, and if you're wearing it, you can use your Apple Watch to unlock. Your device knows if your watch is right around, and when you've already put your watch on and logged in on it, put your little passcode in, it's been activated, and you can actually use that to log in on your laptop. And it works very seamless. A lot of times when I open my laptop up, by the time I get my hands down to the keyboard, it's already logged in. Really, really nice. You can control where apps are allowed to be downloaded from just the App Store or App Store and identified developers. The one little trick I just want to explain really quickly, and it's really handy to know. Sometimes when you download a program or an app, they're done by people that aren't considered identified developers. And when you open it, it basically kicks you right back out. A really nice trick is if you take 2 fingers at the same time and click on the trackpad, or if you have a mouse, you right click on it, just select open. A little box will pop up. Instead of just saying cancel, it will still have an open button, and you can force it open that way. They are trying to protect you so you don't accidentally install anything that's dangerous. But as long as you know who you're downloading it from and you trust, you're fine. But that's a little trick when you can't get it to open any other way. File Vault. I actually have a video already on File Vault. It's just encrypting your disk. And I would strongly suggest turning that on, because if your laptop ever gets stolen or somebody tries to take the hard drive out, though nowadays with the device, it's much harder to do that. But by chance, if your laptop or your device ever gets stolen, you can be sure that they can't get the data off your hard drive. Firewall, I really wouldn't worry about it. But if you do know what you're doing and it's something you want to use, go ahead and turn it on. This is where you do that. Privacy, this is a section you're going to see all the time on Mac nowadays. They're trying to lock down who has control of what. So for example, if I click on microphone, these are all the programs that have control of my microphone. So it ensures that certain applications don't accidentally get control of my microphone or the camera. So you specifically have to give the program permission to use that part of your laptop. So when you install a new program, a lot of times it says you need to go into your privacy section and allow access. And you'll notice there's the little lock icon on the bottom left. So you'll have to unlock that before you can make changes to these settings. But this is an area you'll get to know pretty well. Software update. When you go in there, it'll just search for updates for your software. And that's how you keep your laptop up to date. Network. Hopefully you won't have to come in here very often. This is where you go when you do need to dig in a little deeper on network related issues. Bluetooth. Any Bluetooth devices you have, they show up in here. If you use Bluetooth a lot, I would strongly suggest putting it up in your menu bar. And you'll notice when I tick that box, now the little Bluetooth icon appears in the menu and I can click on it. And now it allows me to add or edit any Bluetooth connections I have. But when you're syncing a new Bluetooth device, you come in here and you can discover it and add it and pair it and do all those things. Or you can remove it. Sound. You do have the sound effects area. I don't think I've ever used this section, but go ahead and play around with the sound effects for an alert sound. I just have it set to boop. But if you're having trouble with your output or input, so if you have some speakers plugged in or some headphones and you're having some issues, come in here, click on output, and you'll see for me, I've got all these different devices plugged in that I can actually output to. So right now I'm using my Scarlett 2i2, which is my USB interface, and you'll see it's actually plugged in through USB. If you have headphones plugged in, for example, you'll want to make sure your headphones are selected. So if they're not working, come on in here, make sure it's selected, and hopefully that'll work. It allows you to add the volume into your menu bar, which is what I do, and you can even adjust some of the settings for that. Same thing for input. If I click on that, it shows all my different input possibilities I have on here. So if I'm having some issues getting an input, you can just come in here, have it selected. You'll see it bouncing up and down when it's working properly. Because I'm recording this in a different way, it's not actually coming through this method. So if I was actually using my MacBook Pro microphone, you would see green dots going up and down there. And then you can adjust the level. So if whatever device you're using is a little what we call hot, meaning it's just a little too loud, you can actually back that down a little bit so it's not overpowering the system. Printers and scanners. If you happen to have a printer, you can come in here. A lot of times if you just plug it in, you'll see the printer auto appear right on the left here. And then if you select the printer, you can actually adjust some of its settings. You can open the print queue. So if one of your print jobs you sent to it got kind of tripped up, you can hit open print queue and you'll see it in the list, and you can actually delete it from the list. The one feature I do want to mention, if you click in this open area and take 2 fingers and click, or if you do right click on a mouse, you'll see Reset Print System. If you really are having issues and just printing is not working well, come in, right click or two finger click in that area and reset the printing system. 9 times out of 10, that will fix the issue. The only thing to know is it will delete all your printers. So please don't learn that the hard way. You'll just have to re-add all your printers if that's the case. A lot of times you could just select the printer and hit the little minus icon, delete the printer, re-add the printer, or re-plug the printer back in. A lot of times that'll fix it too. So it just depends on which way you want to go about it. Keyboard, you can adjust all the different settings on your keyboard. Trackpad. If you use a trackpad, you can come in here and adjust all the different little settings. And the trackpad on MacBook is extremely powerful. And if you hover over one of these settings, it shows you exactly what each feature does. You can choose to use it or not use it by ticking the box. And you can control the speed. If you have a trackpad battery, if you use like an external trackpad, it'll show you what the battery is. And you'll see there's 3 categories. So there is a ton of features you can do with it. Again, you hover over it and it will show you how to use each feature on the right-hand side. Really cool. And then a ton of additional features. Again, hover over it. Some of these will have little drop downs so you can do even more tweaking of the settings, but it will show you how to use each feature. It will make moving around your Mac so much easier. The trackpad for Mac is really one of those other selling points for me. Whenever I go over to any other kind of device, I'm always like, ugh. It's such a pain. On the Mac, it's just so powerful with the trackpad. Mouse, again, you can adjust your mouse settings. If you use the Apple Magic Mouse, you can adjust some additional settings in there. Displays, you can change all the settings for your display. You can change the color, the night shift. If you're using secondary displays, you can choose the order it goes in and all those things to do with your display. Sidecar, I'm actually going to be doing a follow-up video on Sidecar. Sidecar is awesome. What it is if you have an iPad and you're logged in on your macOS device and your iPad with the same Apple ID, you can use your iPad as a second screen and the touch still works. So you can have a secondary monitor using your iPad. And it's so easy to just select it. They'll always put it in the top right-hand corner. You go in, select it, and you have a dual screen setup. Battery. In here you can do everything related to the battery. You can see its usage history over the last 24 hours, the last 10 days. You can click on battery. So when it's on battery power, you can choose how the device acts, how quickly it goes to sleep, turns the display off, kind of all the actions. Then you can also customize how it works with the power adapter. Again, how long it takes to go to sleep and all those different things. When it's plugged in, I tend to have it set to never, because a lot of times I'm doing streaming when there's maybe nothing actually happening on the laptop and I just don't want it to go to sleep. You can also schedule startup times. And under battery, you'll see down here on the bottom left, or kind of in the bottom middle, you'll see battery health. If you tick on that, it'll actually let you know the condition of your battery. If your battery's having any issues, come in here, check it out. I'm also going to tell you if you contact support, they're going to ask you to go in here and let them know what it says. But if you go in ahead of time, when you get in touch with support, you can say, hey, it's telling me there's a critical issue going on with the battery. So just a great spot to know that you can go check those things. Date and time, you can adjust your date and time settings. Sharing. Sharing's probably not a feature you're going to use very often. It allows, if you have other MacBooks in your house, you can quickly access and share certain features within the Macs. Kind of cool if you have a lot of Macs. Not a feature I use very often, but it is there if you want to use it. You can actually do screen sharing between 2 Macs. If you have, let's say you have a Mac Mini upstairs at your house and you're downstairs with your MacBook, you can actually screen share to it and remote into it and use it. Time Machine, it's a backup system. It's the macOS built-in backup system. If you have an external hard drive, you can set it up with Time Machine. A lot of times when you plug an external hard drive in, it'll say, do you want to use this external hard drive for Time Machine? And you can say yes or no, and it will walk you through the setup. I have a feeling in the next version or 2 of macOS, Time Machine is going to get very, very powerful. A recent change they made to the file system a couple years ago, they're going to be able to do some really cool backup things. So I'm really looking forward to it. But Time Machine overall works pretty well. I just use iCloud and I have another backup solution that works just fine for me. So I don't use it, but I know plenty of people that do, and it works really nicely. The last thing is Startup Disk. Again, probably a feature you'll never need to use. However, you can, if your Mac is like beyond repair with your operating system, there are some other boot up modes, and I'm going to show some of those things under a troubleshooting video in this series I'm going to do. But if you need to boot to a USB drive, you go into startup disk and you can select that. That's kind of more of a pro feature. I don't think most people will be using that one. If any programs on their own have some system preferences that they decide to put in this area, you can come in here and find those. We use a backup program at school called Backblaze, and that's a file system backup. I can come in here and edit those settings. So some programs will have some additional system preferences that you can manage from in here. So as you can see, there is a lot to digest in that system preferences area, and it allows you to customize every little piece of it. I hope you found this video helpful. If you have any questions, because there is a lot of pieces to your system preferences. So if you do have any questions, please don't hesitate to leave a comment below. While you're down there, hit that like button, and while you're down there, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with all my tutorials. I try to do 1 to 3 videos a week, so I hope over the next couple of weeks I will get the remaining videos posted in this Welcome to Your Mac series. Otherwise, this is Adam on Tech, signing off.